Internships. What are they? How do they work? How expensive are they? Are they an effective tool for a small business owner? Welcome to episode 32 of the KeyHire Small Business Podcast, where we cover the issues that help owners scale their small business. I'm Corey Harlock, creator of KeyHire Solutions, and I'll be your host today. Our guest today, our second-time guest on the show, is Paul Posoli. He's the president and founder of CareerSpring, a very cool platform, a nonprofit platform that empowers first-generation and or low-income students, college students, to help them jumpstart their career and give them the edge they need. A couple things about Paul. He's a former leader in the energy industry. Most recently was a global head of energy trading at JP Morgan. And then he left JP Morgan to lead a high school for students of limited economic resources called Cristo Rey Jesuit. And that might be the seed for CareerSpring. Then he found CareerSpring to empower first generation and low income students with career skills, information, professional networks, and employment opportunities. I know this organization. I know Paul. I've seen the power of it, and it is fantastic. And I'm excited to talk about internships, how they work, but how you can leverage CareerSpring and their amazing students to help you with your internships. So Matt, let's bring Paul on. Mr. Posoli, how you doing?
Thanks, Corey. Great to be here.
Welcome back.
Yeah, number two. I was surprised to hear that I was the first number two. You may remember the first time I was on, my dog was scratching. You were trying to introduce me, and my dog was digging at my leg, and I said, "I'm sorry to have to do this on a podcast, but I had to pick up my dog."
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I do.
Anyway, great to be back.
You're lucky we didn't blacklist you for that.
Yeah, that was a miss on my part.
Yeah. So what's new with the business since last time we talked?
Things are great. As you mentioned, we're empowering first generation, meaning kids whose parents didn't go to college or low income students, with all the things you need to find meaningful, high quality employment. And so since the last time we got together, at this point, we have 350 partners. We have 24,000 students from over 800 colleges and universities on the platform. We've got about 1,500 professionals, but we're still trying to grow that to work with the students and to be available to talk to them. Really pleased with the progress. We're making a lot of progress. We're in our fifth year now. We just started our fifth year. So things are going well, but we have a long way to go. There's 30% of all college students in America are first gen. So there's a lot of work to do to help them out.
That's a huge number. I didn't realize it was that big.
Yeah, it's millions. And if you add in and or low income, it's about half. And wow. I think a lot of people don't realize, but like if you look at urban America under the age of 21, the majority of those students come from low income backgrounds. So it's important. I'm a capitalist and I want the best for our country. I want to help these students, but it's important for this country to have a strong middle class. Mm-hmm. And so getting those students that are working hard in college into meaningful, high quality employment is really important.
Yeah. And I remember we had lunch a while back and, the buzzword grit, right? That kind of epitomizes exactly what these kids are. A lot of them are working while they're going to college. They're still maintaining meaningful GPAs. They're doing it against the grain, maybe not a lot of support. There could be some stuff going on at home that is pulling them back into it, but they're sticking with it. And I remember saying to you, these are exactly the type of employees that people are looking for that aren't going to wilt under pressure and know what it means to put in the work and put the effort in.
That's exactly right. There's no entitlement with first generation low income students. They've been working their whole lives.
Yeah.
And often, I'll talk to a student and they'll say, well, I don't really have the work experience on my resume because I haven't done that much. And I say, well, haven't you been working? Yeah, but nothing in my field. And I'll say, but give me an example. Well, while I was taking 15 credits full time at college, I also worked 40 hours a week at fast food or whatever they were doing. I'm like, you've got to put that front and center on your resume because employers, people like us that have managed big groups of people, understand the value of work and people that have that grit and they want to know that you're willing to put in that extra work. So
100%.
That's what we find all the time with these students.
So cool. All right. So we're talking about internships today, and we always like to start with a definition. And so this might be a great opportunity to not only define what an internship is, but maybe through CareerSpring or other education facilities, what are there different lengths, terms? What can you do with an internship? So just kind of define. It's a big topic, but I'll give you a few minutes just to roll through all those points.
Great. I'm happy to. Yeah, internships are temporary employment work experience. So they're typically short term, a summer or a semester in school, and they're typically for students or recent graduates, and they provide hands-on work experience in a specific field or industry. They're designed to help interns gain work skills and explore career paths, right? So for the student perspective, it's a great way for them to take what they've learned in school and start applying it in the workplace. But they also provide great benefit to businesses. And so some of the correct characteristics of an internship, like I said, short-term in nature, some level of mentorship or guidance. We could talk more about that. Paid or unpaid, but typically paid. I think as a small business owner, you should assume paid. You may be able to find some unpaid, but let's assume paid for today. And tasks are assigned, taking into consideration the intern's experience and the company's needs. So that's the way these things are set up. I think for bigger businesses across America, probably about half the companies in America have some form of internship programs, but only 25% of small businesses offer internships. So I think I'm glad we're talking today because I think there is an awesome opportunity here for small businesses to consider.
For sure. It's a missed opportunity if they're not at least doing their homework on it. When we talk about a paid internship, are we paying this person a full salary, or is it a stipend, or is it a pre-negotiated rate? What does that look like?
It's typically an hourly rate. And over the years, that has gone up. I think you should assume at least $15 an hour, but probably 20.
Okay. So if you're getting someone to do some sophisticated work, it's still not an excessive amount of money here.
It is definitely, if we're going to talk about, I think we may be talking about the benefits of internships, and one of them is clearly that it's low cost labor.
Right.
You really want to think about this as we talk about what they could do for you. There's work being done by higher paid professionals that can be done by an intern. And so as you think about your business, like what are the things that this person that's making $80 or $90 or $100,000 a year can be passed off to someone at $20 an hour? And if you take the time to really think about it, there's plenty of them.
Very cool. So then when we defined it, we've tilted towards the mistakes. And if I can, the first mistake a small business owner would make when it comes to internships is not exploring the benefits of an internship. But beyond that, what kind of common mistakes have you experienced? Because how many years have you been rolling out internships?
Well, for CareerSpring, we're in our fifth year. But personally, I was president of a company called Calpine. I was president of their Calpine Energy Services, and we had a big business in Houston, and we hired interns. And then at Bear Stearns, I hired interns. At JP Morgan, we hired interns. So I've been involved in interns and analyst programs for 30 plus years.
Right. So what would you say are the pitfalls or mistakes or missed opportunities? And from a small business owner's perspective, if they were going to bring someone in, maybe we'll turn it on its head a bit. If they were going to bring someone in an internship and it was their first time, what kind of would you advise them to not do? What are the kind of stayaways, or be careful not to do this if you want to maximize your opportunity and the intern's opportunity?
Yeah, very, very good question. The first thing is actually what you said. I mean, I think as a small business owner, it's likely you go to your team and say, hey, does anybody need interns? And what they're going to say is no. I mean, I can promise you, you're going to get, I don't need an intern. That's the last thing I need right now. It's a distraction. That's what you will hear. And I heard that even at JP Morgan, right? So
So they think, sorry, Paul, so they think of it as, oh, it's more stuff to take on, someone else to train.
Yes.
More kind of babysitting, if you will.
Exactly. So as a business owner, I think, just change the language a little bit. Please tell me 3 or 4 things that an intern could do for you in your department or your area of the business. Not, do you have anything for the intern? Please tell me. Let's make a list. And as the business owner, you may start making your own list, right? And I'll share like a spreadsheet that says, like, here's 4 that I have, and now please everybody come up with your own list. And we actually even do that at CareerSpring, but I've done that most of my career. So that's step 1. Let's identify things that aren't getting done today, projects, administrative things, research things. We could talk about the type of work that they can do, but let's identify things that aren't getting done today, things that are being done by employees that get paid a lot more money than an intern that could be done by an intern. Like, let's force ourselves to do that. And then projects that would benefit from the lens of a college student. Hey, a 20-year-old is going to see your business differently than you do. And they're going to have a different perspective on social media and your website and consumers. And isn't that awesome to get their perspective? So, but then let's assume for a second you take the plunge and you add interns. What are the common mistakes? 1, there's no structure to the internship. Nobody really thought about it. We hire this student. It's the Friday before they're showing up on Monday. Somebody sends an email and says, hey, what are we doing with so-and-so that's going to be here on Monday? You need to think about, what will they do each day? What are the expectations? Is it a shadow experience where they're actually sitting with people and learning? Or are they given a specific project to do, or both? We suggest a combination of the two, a blend. Give them some real work to work on, and give them an opportunity to meet with different people in different departments. So that's number 1, like, just no structure to the internship. That's a mistake. 2, no owner of the program. Someone in the business needs to own the success of the program. It does not take a lot of time if it's well planned, but someone needs to be available for questions from both the interns and the employees, right? People are going to say, hey, I've got some questions, and someone needs to own it. So that's number 2. And then 3, not having mentors for the students. It's important, right? They're going to be in your office, hopefully, maybe they're virtual, but having someone that they can go to, maybe it's the person that's the owner of the program, but it could also just be someone. If this student is a finance major, it may be that you say someone in the accounting department is going to be responsible for them. And maybe they take them to lunch once and they ask, they're available to answer questions and things like that. So those are 3 mistakes that are commonly made and easy to fix.
And I think you brought something up that we should probably expand on, because you said, let's say this is a finance major and they're going to work in accounting. One of the mistakes you could make, which I just made, is not asking, what kind of help can we get from an internship? As an intern coming in, what kind of projects can we have them do? What departments can they work in? I guess the sky's the limit, but maybe kind of give us an overview in terms of some of the more popular things you've seen with CareerSpring and some of the unique things you've seen, so people can get an idea of, oh, I didn't know I could get them to help me with that.
Yes. And I think it starts with, let's understand the student's background. If a friend of yours has a high school sophomore and they're like, hey, could they come work at your shop?
Right.
It's going to be a very different thing than a junior engineering major at Texas A&M University, right? So understanding their background and what their experiences and what they're studying is important. But some of the projects, I think there's probably, I'll say five buckets.
Okay.
Number 1, administrative tasks, data entry, payables, receivables, preparing reports, PowerPoint presentations. All these kids now are really good with that kind of stuff.
Correct.
So administrative tasks, things that data entry, like the last thing you want is a high-paid employee doing data entry or things like that. So that's one. Two, marketing and communications. And with an emphasis, think about it as like social media. If you're a small business and you do social media, you would be blown away what a 20-year-old can do for your social media, for tracking engagement metrics, suggesting strategies to improve visibility. These people are wired for this stuff. I know that I'm not. Right? I stay out of that. We find young people to handle that in our business. Three, market research. They're really good on finding things. So conducting research on competitors, target markets, industry trends, developing sales leads. They can do all that kind of stuff. Four, data collection, which I guess you could argue is sort of market research, but I think extracting data from public available information or proprietary databases, just like we have all this data, would you please dig in there and extract it and do some statistical analysis, especially students that are studying data science? Like there's a whole industry now on gathering data, slicing and dicing data, and creating reports for management. And if you haven't done that as a small business, what a gift that would be, right? To really see your business in a way that you haven't maybe historically looked at it. And then last, I'd say technical work. It is possible that you may need someone to write code. And well, if you're a junior or senior in college studying computer science, you know how to write code.
For sure.
Or maybe you have specialized skills related to engineering or data science. And so that's my last bucket. I would say that's probably, but it really comes down to the business, what they do, and the student.
One of the things that comes to mind when you talk about the tech part is like Power BI projects. And I think I've talked to you about that before, but there are so many small businesses out there that have all this data, years of data somewhere in a CRM or something. And it takes forever to get it. And having someone come in and do a project where they can create a dashboard where you punch a button and it gives you all the things you've been looking for, trying to find for the last couple of years. There's so much power in that.
That's a wonderful thing. In fact, we use Power BI at Career Spring, and we have a person that's her primary role, and she's probably 5 years out of college. But we have an intern from University of St. Thomas who works with her, and that's her primary role is working in Power BI, pulling data together. And I think we have a 60-page report now. Now, you don't have to look at every page, but I can look into different sections, right? I'm interested in how things are going in Chicago. Click on that, see that one-page scoreboard.
It's all done up in dashboard, so you're not reading heavy text. It's very visual, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. And another thing I might have glanced over is we talked about, first-gen low-income students. And then you've mentioned University of Texas, things like that. So what I don't want people to make an association with the schools are going to, because I know you and we've had these conversations, and you're dealing with first-gen low-income students that are at Harvard, and you're dealing with first-gen low-income students that are at UCC. I mean, we're talking about most of the schools across the nation, correct?
That's correct. Yeah, we were very deliberate. Our vision is that every first-gen low-income student in America finds meaningful, high-quality employment. And you'd be surprised, even though a student may go to an Ivy League school, if you don't have a network, you don't know anyone, it's actually very hard to break into some of these professions. 80% of all jobs are filled by personal and professional connections. If you know people, you have a much higher likelihood of getting your resume to the top of the stack to get a look. And so, yeah, we work with, in fact, last week we were at Brown University for the first gen Ivy group. They had kids from Ivy League schools all over the country that are first gen. And then we have a really big presence in Texas with University of Texas, University of St. Thomas, University of Houston. We have students from the Houston Community College on our platform. So we don't turn students away, and we also don't have a minimum GPA requirement. My view is you may be a kid that's working 2 jobs to get through college, and you may only be able to have a 3.0 or 2.8, but that doesn't mean you won't be CEO of a corporation one day, right? And so we don't cherry pick only 4.0s. However, if a company said to us, look, we need an engineer that has a 3.8 or above, well, we'll find that student. But
Right.
I typically say to them, like, be more open-minded.
Right. And the point I'm trying to make for people that are listening, thinking, okay, well, career spring, but we want to get someone from a specific school. That can happen. You guys, I was very impressed and surprised that the breadth of schools that you're actually the students are coming from that are on your platform. So for anyone listening, you're getting kids with really good educations.
Correct.
Yeah.
I was actually this morning, I found out through Power BI that we have. I heard the number over 900 colleges and universities represented, but I need to check that out because I had been saying 700. So I think I split the difference when we started this call, and I said I don't think I'm safe at 800. But
well,
that's a big, that's a big number of college and universities. So I'm really proud of that.
Yeah, super amazing. So you can get wherever you're listening here. If you go on the platform, you're probably going to find someone in your area. We're not talking about this is a small section. We're only working with 3 or 4 colleges or universities. You're nationwide, and like I said, 900 different schools. So that's amazing.
Thanks, Corey.
All right, let's transition now into the advice you would give. I'm a small business owner. I'm listening. I'm thinking, okay, maybe there is something here for worth looking at. And what advice would you give a business owner if they do want to explore an internship and bringing in an intern?
I think it's pretty simple. I think the first step is ask each member of your team to identify 2 to 3 projects, as we talked about earlier, instead of saying, you need anything done.
Right.
I'd like each of you to.
One of the questions, even you said it, but is what are you doing right now that you shouldn't be doing that we could take off your plate to get you to work on more meaningful work?
More higher valued things.
And
and what are those things? And let's bucket into something that can be done over 8 to 10 weeks. So a summer, maybe that's where you start. But most of the time,
I would recommend, Paul, sorry, I keep cutting you off, but
it's great.
So, if you're doing it for the first time, would you recommend that kind of a 6, 8, 10 week kind of program just to dip your toe and see what it's like?
I would. We also have our own 3-week internship program that I'd like to talk about in a few minutes if you have the time. But I think that's a great place to start. Okay. And then I would say it's like, let's flip around the mistakes. Consider who in your business could be the owner of this program. It's an excellent opportunity for young professionals. Like if you're a mid-level manager kind of person, and you haven't really managed a lot of people yet, but you've been a performer, but now you want them to get leadership skills and mentorship skills. Give them an intern or 2. Let's see how they do.
And it's a great opportunity as a leader to see someone that you're looking at for leadership to oversee someone and mentor someone to see how they deal with that too. So there's impact internally in the business here as well.
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, I've found that the other impact for the whole business is that having young people around the office gets other people excited. They just do. They like to have conversations and tell people what they're doing. And the young person comes in and they get to tell them about what they do each day. So there's lots of cultural benefits to having a college student in the office. But the next step, I think, is determine based on what you heard from your team and who's going to lead it. How many interns could you take? Maybe it's only 1. Maybe there's a need for 2 or 3. And then take a look at budget constraints and whether or not you can make that happen. I would argue that there's so many benefits to an employer long-term that if you're spending $5,000 to $7,000 per intern, it's worth, if you were going to do 1, I'd say do 2. Because one of the benefits of getting started with interns is that it creates a lot of optionality for you. Think about like the cost of a bad hire. You probably know better than me actual numbers, but I promise you it's a lot higher than the cost of an intern. So think of it as like it's like a 10-week interview process. I think about the bad hires I've made over my career. If I had 10 weeks with them prior to making the offer, there's no way I would have hired them, right? But I met them for an hour interview or maybe a few of us met and we made a decision. Right. But this is a great way to meet candidates early in their career. And if you find a star, then it's like, wow, this young person, We've got to make sure they come back next summer, and let's maybe get them to come back for full-time employment when they graduate. So it's a really low-cost option for the businesses.
So that's a good point that I wanted to hit too, is if you like these people, you're allowed to hire them.
Well, of course. Yeah.
Right? So,
I mean, that's like the end game for these young people. They want to get hired,
right.
But you don't have to. And if you don't, it's not, you've still done a great service for the student. Yep. Because they can now go to the next employer or 20 employers and say, look, I did this last summer. Let me tell you about my experience. Yep. It changes the interview process for them, as opposed to, I've never done it, but I'm sure I could. It's, I did it last summer and I was told I was really good at it. And by the way, if you want to ask Corey, you can call him.
Right.
Now they get a job because they had that experience.
And when you ask them to give an example of a time, they can actually give you a real world example that applies and gives them that level of confidence. So I just want to go back to what you talked about. So I bring someone in as a junior and I put them on a 3, 6, 8, 10-week program, and I really like them. So I could then possibly say, hey, I know you're working to pay your way through school. How would you like to work with us part-time while you're in school? So they can earn your business some more.
And win-win.
When you're done school, we're going to bring you back for one more internship, like a 10-week intensive kind of deal. And that'll be the final stages. And then after that, if everything goes well, we're going to offer you a full-time job.
Correct.
You could do something like that.
Definitely. Yeah.
And
that's a perfect win-win for both sides.
Yeah. And the advantage to that is you're hiring someone who requires zero training. They're coming on full-time onto your payroll, hitting the bricks, full tilt, ready to go, capable. They know your business. They know the people they're working with. They know the job. They know the product. They know the expectations. They know where the bathroom is. It's your ROI on this individual is accelerated to a point where the impact is immediate.
And almost a sure thing. Right, because in your example, they've worked with you for 2 summers throughout the semester while they were in school.
And
the odds of you missing on that, the odds of you missing on that hire is really low. Right, as opposed to the other thing that's great about these early programs is that you can build your workforce with the type of people you want 8 years down the road. Right, you have the ability to craft and build your workforce the way you want to see it down the road. In fact, I think at Calpine and Bear Stearns, our analysts, we bring in 8 to 10 analysts a year as interns that became analysts once they graduated. And within 10 years, the majority of our leaders in the business came through the internship and analyst program. So if it's done correctly, these can be the next generation of talent for your company. And we all know baby boomers are retiring. The demographics of our country are changing rapidly. So it's important to be front-footed on this.
For sure. And going back to the cost of 2 internships and a couple hours during the school year is probably still less than hiring someone and getting it wrong and having to rehire.
No doubt.
It's a win-win. So now I want to give you a bit of a platform. We normally don't do this, but because I believe in this so much, you wanted to talk about your 3, you told me last time we talked, you said, we are in intern season. And I said, well, we better get you on fast because we want to make sure you don't get any sleep and you're just fielding calls about people wanting to hire interns. So walk us through your 3-week intern program and the benefits and tell us how, if someone's listening, they want to explore this, how we can do that. And please take your time.
Yeah, thank you, Corey. Well, I'll start by saying, back to your last question about what can businesses do. I think the last step in that process is to find a partner like CareerSpring to help, because I do think it can become a little bit reactionary if every time a friend asks you, hey, will you take my son or daughter or my nephew as an intern? Not that that's a bad thing, but I think you want to be a little bit more proactive rather than reactive. And CareerSpring can help with that. As we talked earlier, there are 4 factors that determine whether or not someone finds meaningful, high quality employment after college. The information, they have to have information. They have to have skills like resume and interview prep. They need to have a professional network. That's very important. And internships are number 4. In fact, I read something recently that said students who have internships in college are 49% less likely to be underemployed. Just think about like how meaningful that is. If you don't have an internship, it's very hard for you to get that first job. So where do we come in? Well, we do all 4 of those things. CareerSpring, if you went to our platform, you'd see this big advisor forum where we have 1,500 professionals that are available to talk to students so they can build their network. And we'll post close to 500 internships this year on our platform. And unlike some of these online platforms where it's just you post it and then good luck, we actually screen every student that applies that we think is a candidate for the role. So if they're not a candidate, we'll say, listen, this isn't a great fit for you. They're looking for a finance major, your philosophy. Here's some other things you may want to check out. But we'll talk to every candidate. So by the time we send candidates to the employer, they've already been screened. So that's something we can do.
I just want to stop you right there. So as an employer, I don't have to interview 50 people and try to pick the one that's going to be successful. And you're going to do all that work for me and say, here is the person that is the right fit for what you're looking for.
Correct.
Beautiful.
Thank you. So as you think about what's possible with CareerSpring, there is a great volunteer opportunity. So keep that in mind. If you're a company, you want to do community service, but you're looking for an efficient way to do that, the way it works at CareerSpring is that your employees can become advisors on the platform and be available for a call. And the awesome thing is that they can put in their availability. They can say, I'll do 1 call a month. They may or may not even get called, but it's a really tangible, efficient way to give back. So that's number 1. And then number 2, you can post internships and jobs, but think entry-level jobs if you have them on our platform. And then we'll find candidates the way I described earlier. We can do a customized internship where you say, what I really need is somebody to help us with technology in our website this summer for 8 to 10 weeks. And we'll go do our best to find candidates like that. We'll post the job description on our platform. We'll do our search and we'll go recruit from our 24,000 students. That's number 1. The second is what you mentioned, and I mentioned earlier, that we have this 3-week experiential internship program that we call Forward. And I think I'll describe it now, but I think think of it as a really light lift way to step in to the internship world. So here are some descriptions of it. It's $3,000 per student. We recommend at least 2, but we could do 1. In fact, we're thinking about maybe a small business cohort, which would be really cool. But it's an awesome opportunity, early identification of talent for the company, because we're reaching out to students who are after their freshman year of college. So back to our example earlier, they go through the Forward internship program. If you like one of the 2 students, or 3, you can ask those students to come back for a full internship the next summer. So really low cost way to enter the program. We identify the students. In the case of Forward, we literally will send you the students. You don't even need to interview the students because we find students we think are a great fit. And then they come to your place of employment, or we could do virtual. We provide training. We provide speakers for the students. So think of it this way, that in the course of a day, in the mornings, they're working on something for the company, probably a shadow, sitting with some people, learning. In the afternoon, they have speakers, training. And then we have a capstone project that they work on for the 3 weeks in the afternoon. And at the end of the 3 weeks, they present to you. So you mentioned earlier the data. One of our 3 cohorts is data science, data visualization. And so all those interns that worked on that at the end of the 3 weeks presented the data of the company to the company leadership. And that was one of the 3. The other one was marketing and the other one was finance. So that's our Forward program. I think it's something that's incredibly scalable. I'm excited about it. It's a really light ask for the employers, and it's a way to find talent early in the process for low cost. If you're interested in learning more, I think this information is going to be out on the platform, but it's www.careerspring.org. Oh, good. There it is. or you can send an email to learnmore@careerspring.org.
Beautiful.
And of course, you can always connect with me on LinkedIn. I'd love to get to know you all better.
Right. I mean, so I just want to recap what I heard what I think would be important to a business owner. It's $3,000, not per week, but for the entire 3 weeks per student. So it's 2 students, $6,000. You get 2 times 3 weeks worth of work. But beyond that, what I heard was this forward program is really about an immersive experience for the students. Yeah, they get some shadow, they do a project, and then they get some extra attention as well through the speakers and things like that. So this really is it's a great intro into what work life would look like, what you're studying, what that is, so they can figure out of all the aspects and the things they worked on, what really excites them and how to behave in the workplace and what expectations are. And I think it's amazing. And I think it would be a no-brainer to have someone join you to do that type of stuff. I think it's incredible. I love the work you're doing. I think I've mentioned this before, but I would be a candidate to be a student on the Career Spring platform back when I was in school. So it's meaningful to me. It resonates with me a lot. And I think you're doing amazing work.
Thanks so much, Corey. It was always a pleasure to be on this podcast, and look forward to the next time.
And like I said, I want people to call and blow up Paul's website at Career Spring. And how many students did you say are on the platform?
24,000.
Okay, so we need 12,000 internships. Let's go. Let's do this.
Let's do it.
All right. Thank you, man. It was awesome. I really, again, I appreciate the work you're doing. I appreciate you having on the show. I appreciate your friendship. And I hope you get some residuals out of this, and we get some of your students to get some work experience.
Thanks again, Corey.
Hey, my pleasure. There he is, Paul Posoli, one of the best. Career Spring. Please check out Career Spring. It's an amazing platform. And you talked about the advisors, and I don't know if I still am, but I was an advisor, and I did speak with some of the students, and it was very valuable from my perspective to be able to give back to a young student who's a young guy. I think he was up in Washington, and he had a lot of thoughts and what he wanted to do with his career. And it was neat to walk him through that and kind of give him some do's and don'ts. And it's very fulfilling on the mentorship side, but these are great kids. Let's give them a chance. So thank you for tuning into the KeyHire Small Business Podcast. If you got value out of today's episode, and I know you did, and you want to keep up to date on our new content, make sure you leave a comment and let us know what you thought of the episode, and be sure to subscribe to the channel. If you prefer to listen to your podcast, you can find us on Apple, Spotify, or whatever your favorite platform is by searching up the KeyHire Small Business Podcast. And if you'd like to learn more about working with KeyHire and how we can help your small business, you can schedule a meeting on our website. We are a help-first organization, so we guarantee no weirdness, no selling, just help. Thanks for listening. I'm Corey Harlock, and until next time, stop grinding, start growing.